As part of the launching of our school, I'm going to talk about the fact that music is a joke and the flute is a serious thinker. And this is not a metaphor. This is not an attempt at humor. It's a straightforward, direct statement, so take it as is. And since we're in the domain of jokes, at some point, I'm going to ask you if you know any dirty jokes. So think about it. So take that statement literally. Let's first go for the second part of the statement. The flute is a serious thinker. In normal speech, do you think about your breathing?
About?
Your breathing. The autonomic breathing system kicks into place, is in charge. You don't need to think about your breathing. The same when you're asleep. When you're playing an instrument into which you have to breathe, to blow, or when you're on the stage, for instance, or when you're singing, you have to think about your breathing. Otherwise, right in the middle of the melody, you're going to run out of breath. So much so that as a musician on your score, you put breathing mark, the best places for you where to breathe. And that puts you in an entirely different relationship to the breath. And that puts music itself in an entirely different dimension from that of speech. So that's a remark there, quite an important one. Now, obviously, because I've got joke in the title, I'm going to be talking about from a text by Freud called Jokes and Their Relation to the Unconscious, 1905. There are not that many references in the academic field on this particular work, but Lacan has commented on it in Seminar 5, Formations of the Unconscious. And together with the trend to the interpretation of dreams, 1900, psychopathology of everyday life, 1901, these three works form a kind of trilogy, actually, because they're very close to one another. At that stage, Freud is still very close to the energetic conception of libido. And what he tries to do is to look at the process, the logic there is in an irrational process. Dreams, parapraxis, slip of the tongue, and jokes themselves. So in this particular book, apparently the idea came to him from a remark by Fliess about the dream examples given in the interpretation of dreams. Apparently all the dreams given by, example of dreams given by Freud, there were a lot of jokes, and Fliess was complaining about that. So it kind of inspired Freud to look at the phenomenology of jokes. And he first makes a distinction and looks at wit, humor, and jokes. And he finds that jokes in particular rely on form rather than content. So that puts us straight away into the field of a signifier. And he remarks it's about condensation and displacement, the same as in dreams. So first formulate the expression, the joke work. We know about the dream work as an expression, and formulate this expression with the joke work. So there is the well-known example of the joke commented upon by Lacan, which is about the famillionaire, which some of you may know. This is the joke. I sat beside Salomon Rothschild, very rich man, and he treated me quite as his equal, quite familiarly. So here we have the condensation of two words, familiar and millionaire, and the invention of the neologism. Yeah. You want to say something, Benny? No? Okay. So familiar, commented by Lacan, 657, the very first sense of the formations of the unconscious. Another example of jokes are in the Marx Brothers films, for instance, such as I would not join a club, would have me as a member. And here we have a play on the logic of the construction. So we are still in the domain of the form. Another joke given by Freud. Two Jews met in the neighborhood of a bathhouse. "Have you taken a bath?" asked one of them. "What?" asked the other in return. "Is there one missing?" And here the displacement is on not answering the question. So we are still in the domain of form. And then Freud concentrates, particularly within the joke area, on what he calls tendentious jokes, or smut jokes, what we nowadays call dirty jokes. And he asked himself the question, how does joke work? Excite pleasure in the hearer. Because he remarks, these are the ones giving the most pleasure. So, at this stage, I'd like to hear some dirty jokes for you. And when the dirty jokes are told, try to observe your own reactions to those dirty jokes. So who's got a dirty joke?
I don't have one, isn't it terrible? I don't remember them, but Helen's got several.
I haven't got several at all.
You've got one.
Marina, you have, you told me you had some?
Yeah, I can't remember them now.
This is part actually of the joke mechanism. Yeah? It's an interesting phenomenon that some of you had told me, yeah, I've got all the jokes, I will tell them, but now you are not telling them. Yeah? Penny?
I have a joke.
Yeah. Is it dirty joke?
It's not that dirty,
Okay.
but it'll do. I think it will do. I have to stand up.
Yeah.
And I'm not very good at telling jokes. A talent scout. A talent scout is trawling the clubs, and he comes across an act which is, and you'll appreciate this, a piano player who's a foot tall. Okay? And he's brilliant, it's a tiny piano player, tiny piano, and just, playing these amazing concertos. So he finds the agent of the artist, and he wants to negotiate with him. And he says, well, what can I do? And he says, well, I tell you what, I can't really let go of this act, but I can give you this rusty old lamp. It's a magic lamp, and if you rub the lamp, it'll grant your wishes. And so the guy's a bit perplexed, but he goes off, and his luck is a bit down. So one day he sort of thinks, well, okay, I'll try this lamp, and he gives it a rub, and the genie comes out, and the genie says, tell me your wish, and I'll grant you your wish. And so he wishes, and then a moment later, a duck appears in the room, and then another duck, and then another duck, and then another duck, and then another ducks, and then, the room is just full of ducks. So he then finds this agent. He says, look, that lamp you gave me, that genie, is it deaf or something? I asked for $1 million, and I got 1,000,000 ducks. And he said, look, do you really think that I wished for a 12-inch piano player? Do you think what he wished for was a 12-inch pianist?
Okay, observe your reaction, how you laughed, because that's a very, very important part of the mechanism. But here also, we again have a form. Yeah? Substitution, displacement. Okay? BD. Okay? Right, I've got a very, 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 very extremely dirty joke. And it's very short, so forgive me if you're oversensitive. Okay? And please observe your reaction, because it's very topical as well. concerning how jokes work. Don't flush the toilet. The next person may be hungry. Exactly. Please do observe your reaction to joke because I'd like you to comment on it later on. Okay. Now, we all laughed at Penny's joke. Okay. A person who laughs at smuts that he hears is laughing as though he were a spectator of an act of sexual aggression. So here, we have the desire to see organs peculiar to each sex exposed as in one of its original, is an original component of the libido. So touching is displaced from touching, you displace to seeing, and you displace to hearing. And this is why we have so many smug jokes around. There is a sexual component behind. Okay? At the same time as Freud is writing this particular book, he's also working on the 3 essays, where he starts formulating a discourse on sexuality. Smut jokes involve usually 3 people. The one telling, Penny for instance, the hearer, ourselves, and the person who is the object of a joke, whether they're here or not. So that's imaginary pianist, for instance. And that is the first pointer as to how smut jokes work. It is an effortless satisfaction in the Freudian sense, effortless satisfaction of the libido of the hearer. So here we are in the energetic aspect of a drive. And what the joke does is to evade restrictions and open sources of pleasure which were inaccessible. And that's why we're laughing. And we'll come back to the laughter mechanism itself in a little while. The accent here is on effortless satisfaction of the drive. And in the Freudian text at that time, this is a very important expression. And here Freud is very close to the pleasure and pleasure principle, which he has not yet formulated. He formulated it in 1911 in the 2 principles of mental functioning. And he then comments on something such as alliterations and similar sounds within the same sentence, and comments that rediscovery of what is familiar is pleasurable. Okay, so it brings satisfaction. Because that does not require very much expenditure of psychical energy. Because we are creatures of comfort. The less effort we have to make with our psychical, the better we feel. So it's about keeping down the levels of libido, keeping down the levels of expenditure of energy. So what is old, when we rediscover it, brings pleasure. And in particular, there is pleasure in nonsense. Nonsense when we were children. We didn't have to make sense. We were not obliged to make sense. We were allowed to be silly. And being silly as adults is a way we rediscover that pleasure, and that also does not require very much effort in bringing about satisfaction. And it's the same when you're drunk. Censorship is weakened, so the grown man becomes a child again. So the next question for Freud is why laughter in joke? Because we all laughed from Penny's joke. Point A, first point, is that from the joke content being told, repression in the unconscious has been lifted. That means what the joke was about has touched a point in you. Someone actually told it, Penny lifted her repression, the effect in you, in us, was also to lift the repression without us having to make any kind of effort. And remember that when something is in the unconscious, it just doesn't stay there. you need an expenditure of libido to keep it there. If the repression is lifted, then that amount of libido which was used to keep things in the unconscious is available for discharge, and it's muscular discharge, and very so often. And Freud says in a very characteristic way, the person hearing the joke is laughing off, literally, his quota of libido. So lifting of oppression, without you having to make any kind of effort, the effort is on the part of a teller of a joke. This is why people who tell jokes are so well appreciated in society. And of course, telling a joke to myself is never as pleasurable as telling it to someone else. So this is a way of reframing the question of the rapport, the social rapport to the other. Who is the other? What does the other want? What can I do with the other? And of course, there is a similarity between the dream work and the joke work, which is the release of intellectual tension. Because as we saw in our cartel, keeping libido at the lowest level possible is what we seek to do. And if we don't have to make any effort with our mental apparatus in order to lift repression, all the better. Hence the social aspect, the social bond aspect of comedy. And a quick remark, if you're a Star Trek fan, if you're a science fiction fan, in Star Trek, you have a character called Mr. Spock. He comes from the planet Vulcan. He does not understand jokes, and he cannot make jokes. So it means he hasn't got an unconscious. Now, what has this got to do with music? And in this particular example, what has it got to do with pop music? Because it's about pop music, I'm going to concentrate. Right. My working hypothesis so far in the book I've published in 2008 is that music does not have a signified. It is therefore a play with signifiers, just like in the joke phenomenon. It's as close as you can get to nonsense. You can stick your tongue out to the symbolic while remaining in good terms with it and without falling into the real. And it gets close to the unconscious without being obliged to make sense. And why does that apply in particular to pop music? There is no difference, by the way, between what we call classical music and pop music. There are no structural difference. They both use the same form, and it's a form we call in Roman letters 151. You start on a particular pitch and you finish on the same pitch, and in between you create a differentiation. In classical music, of course, if you tell me, well, if I listen to Mozart and then I listen to Madonna, I see there is a difference. The difference is that in the case of Mozart, to go from there to there, he will do this. Whereas in a pop song, the path is fairly straightforward. So pop music uses that form. That form is very simple to apprehend, to listen to. Minimum effort of expenditure of psychical energy, easy recognition. Hence the success of pop music. And hence also the use in film scenes depicting horror or discomfort of non-standard music, non-standard pop music, so that it becomes more difficult to recognize and to apprehend, so you have to spend more psychical energy in recognizing it, so it creates discomfort in you, together with what is being depicted in the scene. So, music, therefore, is a joke. You can get very close back either to the childish state, or you are getting very close to not having to make sense, and therefore have a lot of jouissance at your disposal. And that applies also to comedy, hence the success of comedy in this country and in America. It's very easy to perform. So, music, pop music as a joke, yes, but then it becomes a commodity, and that's another story altogether, perhaps the object of another seminar. But as a joke, as a personal practice, it creates a social bond, and it creates a light social bond. It's not the other in your face. So, music is a joke. There you go.